How does a 33-year-old children's book author go from a mother of 3 children with a husband and what seems like a perfect family in Utah to an alleged killer and fraudster? Kouri Richins was married to her husband Eric Richins until police found him dead in his home on March 4, 2022. What lies inside this story is something much darker and much more heinous than anyone could have ever anticipated.
We know Kouri's innocent, and all that's going to come out in court. And I think that's going to shock people.
Days ago, while searching her cell, guards opening this letter in which prosecutors allege Kouri attempted to coach family and friends into giving false testimony on the stand.
You know, not only how to grieve as a widow, as a wife, but also, you know, with my kids, how to help them understand what just happened.
Give me a chance to prove it to you. Let me show you the facts. Let me show you the evidence. I will not give up. I will not give in. Please, just give me a chance.
Eric Richins was born on May 13, 1982, to Gene and Linda Richins in the city of Bountiful in the state of Utah. His family owned a cattle ranch, and at a young age, Eric would help out around the ranch, taking care of the horses and cows and doing labor with his dad on the land. He loved his family and was known for his kind, genuine attitude. He was also a competitive athlete who enjoyed watching and playing sports like cross-country, basketball, and even soccer. As an adult, Eric would begin to coach and assist with his sons' sports teams. The people around him knew him as a passionate person who had the best interests of others at heart. He was also an avid hunter and would travel across the world for this hobby. Eric would obtain a bachelor's degree from the University of Utah in international studies and would obtain a minor in Spanish. And he went on to build up a stoneworking business. He would be married, but that marriage ended in a divorce. And then he met Kouri, who was a cashier at Home Depot in Park City, Utah at the time. Due to Eric's business, he would frequently visit Home Depot and interacted with Kouri frequently. Eventually, the two would begin dating, and in July 2012, Kouri would give birth to a son named Carter, and then the two would be married in June 2013. The two would sign a prenup that outlined multiple financial agreements in their marriage. Part of the prenup detailed that several assets would remain in Eric's ownership if they divorced. However, Kouri could claim ownership of some of the assets if Eric passed while they were still married. The assets included Eric's 50% ownership interest in C&E Stonemasonry, LLC, a forklift, scaffolding, and other construction equipment. Throughout their marriage, Kouri would have 2 more children, Ashton and Weston. She would also work as a real estate agent at some point as well. Kouri was born on April 20th, 1990. She grew up in the state of Utah. Not much is known about her early life, but her mother, Lisa Darden, had apparently been investigated at one point back in 2006. Darden had been involved in a romantic relationship with a woman she was living with, and in April of 2006, that woman mysteriously died. An autopsy of the woman revealed that she had died of an overdose on oxycodone. Lisa Darden had been named as the beneficiary of the deceased woman's estate a short time before her death. Additionally, Darden's partner had an issue with abusing her prescription medications. Throughout the investigation, police would rule out the cause being an accidental overdose, but it didn't seem like there was enough evidence to convict Darden of any crime in the death of her partner. Kouri and her mother were very close, though, and they spoke with each other almost every day. Things in the Richins household seemed to be going fine, but around 2015 to 2017, Kouri began having financial troubles and would allegedly begin taking money from Eric to help buy and sell houses. In 2019, Kouri decided that she wanted to start a house flipping business, which is a line of work where individuals purchase older houses, fix them up, and then sell them for profit. However, she didn't have the funds on hand to start the business, so she took out a home equity line of credit on a house her husband owned in Summit County. The HELOC's value was $250,000. However, the one catch in this story, Kouri never exactly told her husband Eric that she had done this. She had effectively forged his signature on the loan documents and had even taken out over $2 million in life insurance on him as well. In September 2020, Eric would learn that Kouri had withdrawn over $100,000 from his bank accounts and had allegedly borrowed $30,000 total on his credit cards. She'd also apparently borrowed money using a fraudulent power of attorney. When he confronted her, she promised to pay it back, but she never would. she had apparently stolen or misused nearly $500,000 of Eric's money throughout their time together. In October of that same year, Eric would consult a divorce lawyer and then an estate planning lawyer. He changed his will and created a living trust where he placed his estate under the control of his sister, Katie Richins Benson, for the primary benefit of his 3 children. He also transferred his partnership interest in his business to his trust, designated the trust as the beneficiary of his $500,000 life insurance policy instead of Kouri. In September 2021, a family would file a civil lawsuit against Kouri over the sale of a house back in 2020. Alec and Taryn Wright had purchased a home from Kouri's realty company, and it seemed like things were good on paper. However, soon after moving in, the family began to get sick often. Their son would begin to fail in school, and their daughter even developed asthma. Upon investigating, they found the presence of mold in the home growing out of the walls. In fact, testing revealed that the house had dangerously high levels of mold, and the family would need to move immediately. Apparently, the man who sold Kouri the house had informed her that the house had significant water damage and would need extensive repairs. Those repairs were never done, and when the Wrights were shown the house, Kouri, of course, failed to mention the problem. The Wrights' lawsuit claimed that there was a breach of contract and fraud. Then, in 2022, Kouri would change the beneficiary for Eric's $2 million life insurance policy to herself without any authorization. The original beneficiary was meant to be Eric's business partners. When the situation was discovered, Eric's business partner would eventually be restored as the beneficiary. Now here's where things begin to get much darker and much stranger. By the end of January 2022, Kouri would have contacted a friend multiple times asking to get a prescription for pain medication. According to court documents, this friend of hers was named CL, and Kouri said that she needed the meds for a supposed investor who had a back injury. The following month, Kouri would contact the same friend asking for something stronger, even going as far as to say that the investor wanted that, quote, Michael Jackson stuff. And Kouri's friend would deliver around 15 to 20 pills of fentanyl, which Kouri ended up paying $900 for. That same month, on Valentine's Day, Eric and Kouri would have dinner together, and shortly afterwards, Eric became very sick. He'd eaten a sandwich, and after just one bite, he broke out into hives and couldn't breathe. He used his son's EpiPen and even Benadryl before he passed out for several hours. He'd apparently told a friend that he believed that Kouri was trying to poison him. Kouri would contact her friend again later that month and ask for another $900 worth of pills, which were delivered at the same house that the previous exchange had taken place at. On March 3rd, 2022, Kouri and Eric were celebrating her closing on a house for her business. She would go to the kitchen and make Eric a Moscow Mule drink and then gave it to him in their bedroom. He drank it in bed and allegedly would also consume an edible. Shortly afterwards, Kouri stated that she went to put one of her children to bed and then fell asleep. At around 3:22 a.m. on March 4th, 2022, Kouri woke up and found Eric dead at the foot of their bed. She would immediately call 911, and following an autopsy of his body, it was discovered that Eric had died of an overdose from fentanyl, around 5 times the lethal dose, and according to the medical examiner, it was ingested orally. Kouri would not be arrested immediately following his passing. However, investigators would look into Kouri for her potential involvement in his death. Relatives of Eric had told police to look into Kouri and that he had apparently warned them that if something ever happened to him, that she would be to blame. He had apparently suspected that Kouri tried to poison him on multiple occasions. Aside from the Valentine's Day incident in 2022, Eric and Kouri had taken a trip to Greece where she'd given him a drink and he became violently ill. Eric had apparently called his sister, telling her that he believed his wife tried to kill him. Eric was worried the entire time that Kouri would try to kill him for money, and he wanted to make sure that his children were taken care of financially. However, he had stayed married to her for his children, wanting simply to keep the family together. Kouri had claimed that on the day Eric passed, that she had slept in one of her children's bedrooms because the child had suffered from a night terror. She told deputies that she left her cell phone in her bedroom and did not take it to her child's room. However, police later learned that her phone had been locked and unlocked several times, and it showed movement during the time frame when she said she was in her child's room. In fact, messages had apparently been sent and received and then later deleted. She apparently also claimed that she performed CPR on Eric, but investigators would later determine that that likely did not happen. The day after Eric died, Kouri signed the closing papers on a $2 million home that she had wanted to flip. The home was a source of strife between her and Eric previously, as he did not want to go through with the purchase. After closing on the home, she invited her friends over for a large party at her home where she was drinking and celebrating. This was just one day after her husband died. A few days later, Kouri would call a locksmith to open a safe that Eric kept in the garage. However, Eric's sister, Amy, was there and told Kouri that she had no right to open the safe and didn't have a right to anything involving Eric's estate. In October 2022, Kouri would take her children to Spain on vacation and then went to Mexico in August with her children and her mother. Sometime after Eric's death, Kouri would write and publish a children's book centering around grief titled, "Are You With Me?" She claimed that she wrote it to, quote, "create peace and comfort for children who have lost a loved one." She dedicated the book to Eric, who she called an amazing husband and a wonderful father. She would even appear on Good Things Utah, a morning talk show to promote her book. The show was being hosted by Dina Manzanares and Saray Chin, and Kouri would explain to them how she and her 3 sons were learning to cope with the loss of Eric. Off camera, Kouri had apparently told one of the hosts that she believed Eric died of COVID, and more specifically from lung issues. One of the hosts of the talk show claimed that Kouri was practically emotionless. After the show aired, Dina would receive a strange anonymous email that read the following: "You know she killed her husband." The 2 hosts didn't think much of the email at the time, as they were used to getting strange messages often. In February 2023, Kouri filed a claim against Eric's trust, contesting Eric's sister as his personal representative of his trust. Then in April 2023, Kouri would email Summit County to explain her behaviors since her husband's passing and how she had work ambitions, and claimed that Eric was having an affair. She claimed that Eric wanted to live a traditional life where the woman was the homemaker, and she claimed that it wasn't her personality. She also stated that she never had any financial problems. She finished the letter off by saying that she wanted the whole situation over and that she didn't want to have to keep looking over her shoulder for the police or the Richins family or the, quote, idiotic private investigator. Clearly what she wrote didn't work to convince anyone, and on May 8th, 2023, Kouri was arrested for aggravated murder and 3 counts of possession of drugs with intent to distribute. Despite this, though, she wouldn't let up about the money, and in June 2023, Kouri would file a civil lawsuit against Eric's estate, alleging that she deserved several monetary and/or physical assets according to their prenup. However, investigators would uncover details of her search history that revealed that she had full intent to kill her husband. The details were revealed during an appearance at a detention hearing. She had apparently searched up what the lethal dose of fentanyl was, if police could force you to take a lie detector test, how to delete information from an iPhone permanently, what luxury prisons there were for the rich in America, and even if life insurance paid in the case of a pending death certificate. Her defense attorney, Clayton Sims, stated that she was simply researching her case to see how evidence is processed and claimed that nothing in her search history indicated guilt. The prosecution claimed that Kouri was in a bad financial situation and she wanted to get out of debt. The defense's argument did not hold up with the judge, who called Kouri a danger to society and ordered her to remain behind bars, denying her bail. In August 2023, the state announced that it would not seek the death penalty in its prosecution and that Kouri's charge of aggravated murder would be changed to a non-capital first-degree felony, punishable with 25 years to life if she would be found guilty. In September 2023, a document would surface in which Kouri appeared to be telling her family members how to testify in court. The 6-page letter was addressed to her mother, Lisa Darden, instructing her to have her brother, Ronald Darden, falsely testify that Eric Richins received drugs and pills from Mexico that resulted in his death. The letter would be referred to as the Walk the Dog letter, and prosecutors said that the document was a clear case of witness tampering and filed a motion to prevent Kouri from having contact with family members. Kouri's lawyer would try to claim that the letter was part of a fictional novel she was working on about her fictional stay in a Mexican prison. Kouri had apparently said in a phone call that the papers were not a letter to her family and that she was writing a fictional mystery book and that she was writing about her father and how she and her father went to Mexico to find the drugs. In October, Kouri's attorney would file a motion to dismiss her case based on the walk the dog letter going public. It had initially been found during a routine sweep of Kouri's cell, and the defense claimed that it should have fallen under attorney-client privilege and should not have gone public. And then the defense claimed that the release of the letter to the public violated a gag order set up by the court and asked the trial to be moved to Salt Lake City instead. However, in November, the motion to dismiss was denied. Kouri's defense would argue that the state had perpetrated a false narrative through the release of the walk the dog letter, asserting that she would not receive a fair trial. However, the judge refuted their claims, saying the case had already received an inordinate amount of media coverage. On March 26, 2024, the prosecution would file additional charges against Kouri, including attempted aggravated murder and fraud. A total of 11 charges would be added against her, of which only 2 were eventually dropped, which were 2 counts of distribution of a controlled substance. On May 20th, 2024, Kouri's defense team withdrew from the case, citing a duty to withdraw due to an irreconcilable and non-waivable situation. Kouri would be appointed new representatives, and she released a public statement trying to assert her innocence and ask the world to give her a chance. Judge Mrazek would eventually rule that the state presented enough evidence to present a case to a jury, and Kouri would plead not guilty to all counts. Her attorneys would later file to renew her request to be released on bail. This would be denied once more. In June 2025, Kouri would be charged with even more crimes, including more than 24 counts of mortgage fraud, forgery, issuing a bad check, money laundering, communications fraud, and a pattern of unlawful activity in the months before Eric was poisoned. In total, she was charged with 26 felonies. The latest update in Kouri's case was on November 18, 2025, which found Judge Mrazek once again denying a motion to reconsider releasing Kouri on bail, stating that her attorneys failed to show a material change in circumstances. Kouri currently sits in the Summit County Jail without bail. All charges against her are allegations as of right now. Her trial is set to begin in February 2026. Investigators have posited the idea of Lisa Darden being involved in orchestrating and helping Kouri in the death of Eric Richins. But as of January 2026, Lisa Darden has not been arrested on any charges.
Messages read, "I pumped so damn hard, so hard, screaming at him to come back to life."
The world has yet to hear who I really am, what I've really done, or what I really didn't do.
Although in this case, it seems like something shocking happens about every couple of months.